What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats of every one of the weapons in Modern Warfare. In today's episode, we're going to be moving on to the PP19 Bizon. And starting it off, as always, let's have a look at the damage profile. Now, just like with all of the SMGs in this game, we get reduced damage to the limbs. So if you're shooting them in the arms or the legs, you're not going to deal as much damage as the torso. And our limb damage profile is 30, 22, 18, 17. Whereas our torso damage multiplier, keeping in mind this applies to the stomach as well as the upper chest, this is 34, 25, 20, 19. And what this means is the PP19 is a 3 to 6 shot kill, assuming you hit those torso shots. As for headshots, we get a great headshot multiplier of 1.61, which gives us a headshot damage profile of 55, 40, 32, 31. What this means is headshots are generally pretty good with this gun, although you tend to need more than one single headshot mixed in with body shots in order to help you out. But in the 3-shot kill range, for instance, just 2 headshots will end up being a kill, which gives you an insane time to kill. But the next thing we're going to look at is rate of fire, which isn't that great with the PP19. This is 659 rounds per minute, which is quite slow for an SMG at least. And this means this gun isn't very forgiving if you're missing shots. As for our statistical minimum time to kill, it's got a great time to kill within the 3-shot kill range at 182 milliseconds, but then it drops off very steeply all the way down to 455 milliseconds in the 6-shot kill range. This is a painfully slow time to kill, so you definitely want to make sure that you're challenging people up close and personal with this gun. As for our time to kill potential, like I said, you can get a 2-shot headshot in the standard 3-shot kill range. This is just 91 milliseconds, which is nearly instant, and this is an incredible time to kill potential. So this goes to show that the PP19 absolutely excels up close, but as soon as you start stretching out the range, or if you're missing the odd shot here or there, this gun definitely struggles in those situations. As for our ranges, the PP19 actually has a great range profile for SMGs. Its 3-shot kill range is about 14 meters, which is very solid. Most SMGs drop off from their maximum damage range at like 10 meters. So that's definitely one of the big upsides to using this gun, is it's got a pretty solid 3-shot kill range, and you want to make sure you try and stay within that 3-shot kill range. But after that, our 4-shot kill range extends out to 25 meters, which again is quite solid. And then finally, our 5-shot kill range will extend out to 37.5 meters, which is quite incredible for an SMG. As for suppressors, the lightweight suppressor will reduce all of our damage ranges by 25%, which isn't great, and the monolithic suppressor increases all of our ranges by just 7.5%. This brings us to hardcore, and our 1-shot kill potential is 14 meters, which isn't bad for an SMG. And keep in mind that 1-shot kill potential applies anywhere in the body. Even if you're shooting them in the foot, you still get that same 1-shot kill potential for hardcore. And also, this gun is always a 1-shot headshot in hardcore game modes. So even across the map, if you hit a bullet to the head, they will die in just 1 shot. As for hipfire, this is standard for the SMG category. It's the same as all of the other SMGs aside from the MP7. When it comes to idle sway, as you can see here, it definitely does move around pretty quickly in a small area. This is pretty standard for SMGs, and that is to say that it's not really great if you're trying to pick off really accurate shots at long ranges, but you shouldn't really be using this gun for that anyways. After that, we'll have a look at recoil, and as you can see here, the PP19 generally just kicks upwards and a little bit to the right, but when you have a really close look at this, you'll also see that it has a decent amount of side-to-side bounce. As a result, I do find that it's nice to choose attachments that help with recoil stabilization on this gun to reduce that side-to-side bounce a little bit and make this a bit easier to control and predict. Having said that, even without any attachments to mitigate your recoil, it's generally not that difficult to control the recoil of this gun. Moving on to handling, our aim down sight time with the PP19 is 234 milliseconds, which is pretty average for SMGs. It's not the fastest SMG out there, but it's not the slowest either. It's a pretty standard aim down sight time. Same thing goes with our sprint out times. These are pretty standard for the SMG categories. It's 133 milliseconds for our standard sprint out time and 217 milliseconds for our super sprint out time. Now, one of the big upsides for the PP19 is its magazine capacity. We get a standard 64 round magazine, which is incredible. And you also get 128 reserve ammo every time you spawn. So you spawn with a ton of ammo with this gun. And combine that with the fact that the rate of fire isn't insanely fast, you don't even really burn through these very quickly. So ammo should never really be one of your concerns while using the PP19. As for our reload add time, this is not so great for the SMG category at 1.72 seconds, but since your magazine capacity is so massive, you don't really have to be reloading that often anyways, so it's not a major concern. But if you did want to reduce that, of course you could use the sleight of hand weapon perk, which will cut your reload time down to 1.15 seconds, which is much more respectable for an SMG. This brings us to mobility, and our movement speed is a little bit on the slow side for SMGs at 97%. It's still noticeably faster than assault rifles, so it's not painfully slow. It's just not considered to be a fast-moving SMG. However, its aimed out sight strafe speed is pretty fast for SMGs at 58%. So that is one of the strengths of this gun, is it does strafe pretty quickly while aiming down sight. So that covers it for the base stats of the PP19, but now I want to get into some of the unique attachments, and first up we're going to have a look at the barrel attachments. And the first one we have access to is the 8.7-inch steel barrel. With this one you get a 25% increase to your damage range, which is a very solid increase. Plus, on top of that, you get added bullet velocity, which will help you hit moving targets at longer ranges, and also you get an increase to our recoil control, which if we have a look at it right here, there isn't that much of a difference overall when it comes to recoil control. There is a little bit less side-to-side bounce actually based on my wall tests here, but overall this isn't a massive change by any means. Now these bonuses do come at the cost of aim down sight time. You actually lose 2 frames to your aim down sight time, which is pretty noticeable. It's about 14% slower than the base aim down sight time, and on top of this our movement speed is reduced by roughly 2%. And this means we're now at about assault rifle level when it comes to movement speed. So definitely some solid upsides with this, but also some noticeable downsides. Next up in the barrel category though, we have the 8.7-inch polygonal barrel. And with this one, we get a 20% increase to our damage ranges, which is still a very solid increase, even though it's not quite as much as with the steel barrel. And with this one, we also get that added bullet velocity, which is nice for those longer range fights. Now, the only con for this is our aim down sight speed is really improved. You aim down sight about 7% faster, or 1 frame at 60 FPS, which is great. And the only con for this is a decrease to your bullet velocity. So hitting those targets at longer ranges might be a bit more difficult, but then again, you really shouldn't be using this gun at longer ranges anyways. But that's it for the barrels, although we do have a couple other unique attachments for this gun, and the first one is the Corvus Skeleton Stock. With this, we get a roughly 17% boost to our aim down sight strafe speed, which is a great boost. This allows you to strafe really quickly while aiming down sight, which is awesome. And on top of that, it improves our aim down sight time by 1 frame, or roughly 7%. These awesome benefits just come at the cost of aim down sight testing. There is no measurable change at 60 FPS, so don't have to worry about that really impacting your aim down sight time. But we do actually see a slight reduction to our movement speed. It slows you down by about 2%. Personally though, I do think this attachment is completely overkill. Your base magazine capacity is already amazing with this gun, so I just don't see the need for trying to boost that even further, especially if that's going to slow you down a little bit, because like I said at the beginning, this is already one of the slower SMGs. But with that, we finally made it through all of the basic stats as well as unique attachments for the PP19, and it's time to get into some great attachment combinations and example class setups. And first up, this is my favorite attachment combination with the PP19. We've got the 8.7-inch polygonal barrel. This is my favorite barrel to use for this gun by far. We've also got the muzzle brake on there to help a little bit with that side-to-side bounce to our recoil, which is great. We've got the 1 milliwatt laser, since I do want to try and play up close and personal as much as possible with this to maximize our time to kill potential. We've also got the Corvus Skeleton Stock, just because this has so many great benefits with very little downside. And finally, we've got that stippled pistol grip, which is going to help keep our aim down sight time as snappy as possible. Taking this into an example class setup, with this we've got the Desert Eagle as our secondary. Honestly, you can use whatever you're comfortable with there. For our perks, we've got EOD to help with the explosive damage, Hardline because we're going to be really aggressive here. I just want to get those UAVs up as quickly as possible. Tune Up so we can get our Dead Silence field upgrade as fast as possible so we can approach the enemies without them hearing us as often. For our lethal, we've got a C4, and for our tactical, we've got a Stim Shot. This right here is 100% my preferred attachment combination and class setup with the PP19 at this point in the game's life cycle. I've actually been finding quite a bit of success with this particular setup. As for the next setup, this one's designed more as a stealth build, and with this, once again, we do have the 8.7-inch polygonal barrel, but this time we are using the monolithic suppressor so we can stay off the radar. For our optic, we've got a GI Mini Reflex on there, which I really like that optic if I'm going to be using one. The iron sights are just fine on this gun, but sometimes I like to pop an optic on. And then once again, for the rest, we are sticking to the skeleton stock as well as the stippled pistol grip. As for our example class setup with this, once again, I just threw the Desert Eagle on there for the secondary. That's just been the one I've been enjoying the most lately. For our perks, we've got Cold-Blooded and Ghost because this is designed to be a full stealth build. And on top of that, once again, we are using tune-up so we can get that Dead Silence field upgrade as often as possible. Getting into our equipment, our lethal is going to be a frag grenade. I really like using that as I flank and approach campers to bank that off the walls and pick them off. And on top of that, we're using the stun grenade since we don't have EOD. So if we come across a claymore, then we can use the stun grenade to disable that for 3 seconds and approach our target. So with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide on the PP19 Bizon. Personally, I do think this gun is pretty underrated. It's not quite as versatile or amazing as the MP7 or MP5. I wouldn't consider this gun to be an upper tier weapon. But having said that, you can really do some damage with this as long as you remain accurate and you keep yourself up close and personal. The time to kill potential is very solid with this. It's nice having that crazy magazine capacity. And I actually surprised myself quite a bit once I started putting time into this gun. I honestly thought it was worse than it actually is. But of course, that's just my opinion. I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think of this SMG? Do you agree with me? Do you think this is underrated? Or do you think it's really not a great SMG after all? Just let me know those thoughts in the comment section down below. Also, if you guys have missed any of the previous episodes of Gun Guides, I will leave a link to the playlist in the description. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.